But, you know, this is the land we live in. From Fox News, 1619 Project's Nicole Hannah-Jones argues journalists are just too neutral. Too neutral. On Wednesday, 1619 Project author Nicole Hannah-Jones promoted the idea that journalists should be more biased against conservatives. The New York Times journalist appeared on CNN's New Day to comment on a report by CNN reporter Evan that followed the claims that Republicans wanted to ban books from school libraries. Listen, you guys got to cut out with the book banning. I'm sure I'm not talking to anyone in my chat right now that's trying to do this, but there are absolutely groups that are arguing to ban certain books, Moms for Liberty. You guys got to cut this shit out. I posted a video, what was it, maybe like a month ago, targeted directly at parents who it seemed were making the argument to ban books. And I say, cut this shit out. It's going to be used against us. Now what's happening? This is all I see anymore on the left. They are directly attacking this point. Now, I am not talking about the books that depict sexual acts. I'm not talking about those comics that are going around that are absolutely in schools that should not be in schools. That's not what I'm talking about. But there are absolutely parent groups out there that are focusing more on banning books than they are on almost anything else. And it's giving the left all the ammo that they need. You guys have got to cut this shit out because it's going to make us all look bad and it's going to get in the way of actually initiating real change on things that matter more than if a book you don't like is in the school library. All right, back to the article. Fill-in host Erica Hill began by asking Hannah-Jones, as you look at where we are right now, what do we stand to lose as a country by going down the road of banning books, by ignoring accurate history, by vilifying people who are simply trying to make reading history accurately available? Listen, I want to point this out. Look how they incorporated the book banning thing into the argument. Because there is actual evidence that there are conservative groups trying to ban books. That's real. Shouldn't be happening, but it is happening. And then they take that and they include it with everything else. So it's like you take this one truth right here of like, oh, there are these groups that want to ban books. And then you say, by ignoring accurate history. Well, no one's actually doing that. That's made up. By vilifying people who are simply trying to make reading and history accurately available. That's made up. That's not real. But because you're starting with something that is actually real and is actually happening, and we can point to multiple examples of this, it gives credence to everything else. This is like, we've got to be smarter than them, guys. We really just do. I know some of you don't like when I lecture you, but like, I don't know what other way to say this. We have to be smarter than them. Banning books isn't going to solve the problem. Hill also referenced a question posed by Hannah-Jones from the Associated Press, which said, we, as Americans, are going to be severely tested in the next year or two to decide what are we willing to sacrifice to be the country we believe we are. Hannah-Jones responded, affirming the claim that one political party is attacking voting rights, banning books, and opposing history. I don't know that our institutions are going to hold with the assaults that we are seeing on voting rights, on the attempts to ban books, on the memory laws, which they're calling anti-critical race theory laws, but they're really anti-history laws. Well, that's nonsense, of course. These are all means of stroking division and resentment, and I don't think we quite know where we're going to go at this moment. The claims of Republicans banning books emerged from the Virginia gubernatorial election when Democrat politicians, including Joe Biden, accused Republican Governor Glenn Youngkin wanting to ban books from libraries for political reasons. And that was not true. But again, there are parents groups that are doing this. In reality, Youngkin attacked his opponent, Terry McCullough, for vetoing legislation that would have allowed parents to be notified if their children were introduced to sexually explicit material. Hill then brought up another quote from Hannah-Jones saying, you also noted in that interview that we need to really ask ourselves as journalists, storytellers, narrators, if we're ringing the alarm bell in the right way. So are we? So here you have them advocating that journalists should be activists. Hannah-Jones argued that Hannah-Jones argued that journalists not ringing the alarm bell could actually be upholding people with authoritarian ideas. I think that there are certainly political journalists and others who are trying to, but I think there are far too many in our profession who are really normalizing what's happening right now in an attempt to be or appear to be objective. Now, an attempt to say, well, we're going to treat both political parties equally, when we clearly have in this moment one political party that is passing anti democratic policies, that is upholding people with authoritarian ideas. She concluded, we are the firewall of this democracy, and I do not believe the firewall is holding right now. Well, that's a little ironic. It is a little ironic. Since we also have Nicole Hannah-Jones just today going on to Meet the Press and arguing that parents shouldn't really be in charge of what their kids are learning. Let's listen. We're going to put this in a new window because we're going to listen to this clip. I think that the fact that this comes on the heels of her saying that journalists really shouldn't really be neutral because that's not journalism. We're allowing authoritarians to take over. It's a little ironic, isn't it, that she's doing this while also stating that, parents really shouldn't be in charge of the education that their kids are receiving. Got to put it in a new window so we can hear the sound. Let me bring this up. Meet the Press today, man. You cannot make this stuff up. Hang on one second. It's got to change one more setting. And then we'll be able to listen to this clip. There we go. This is on Becker News. All right, guys. Let me know if you can't hear the sound.
I don't really understand this idea that parents should decide what's being taught. I'm not a professional educator. I don't have a degree in social studies or science. We send our children to school because we want them to be taught by people who have an expertise in the subject area. And that is not my job. When the governor or the candidate said that he didn't think parents should be deciding what's being taught in school, he was panned for that. But that's just the fact. This is why we send our children to school and don't homeschool, because these are the professional educators who have the expertise to teach social studies, to teach history, to teach science, to teach literature. And I think we should leave that to the educators. Yes,
I think it's a little ironic that Nicole Hannah-Jones doesn't seem to understand that most teachers are not actually subject matter experts. If they come through a school of education, they're not a subject matter expert in whatever they're teaching. I'm sorry. They're not. And of course, schools of education are one of the primary places in which these teachers are getting indoctrinated into ideas like Nicole Hannah-Jones preaches. Yeah, Deborah says she's anti-homeschool. She's also anti-school choice. Nicole Hannah-Jones all the time on Twitter talks about how school choice people don't really believe that Black children should be able to choose whatever school they go to. Well, yeah, they do, actually. Yeah, they do. So she's pro-journalists taking a political position. She is anti-parent having any say in their child's education because parents really aren't the experts. And ew, those homeschool parents over there. Gee, it certainly sounds to me like Nicole Hannah-Jones not really a fan of teaching any sort of objective history, while also constantly arguing that objective history is the only one that should be taught. And so